franchisee wise, the crux move is people. Ability to attract, hire, and lead good people. That's the crux move. We've yet to go on a market and produce too few leads. If you kept your team together and you hit your KPIs, you would open at the threshold that we ask you to. And we've yet to produce too few leads to do that. So the market response has been really good.
Today, I'm joined by someone who has helped the fitness industry for more than 3 decades. Rick Mayo started as a personal trainer in 1992, became one of the earliest pioneers of small group personal training, scaled his systems to thousands of gyms worldwide, and now leads Alloy Personal Training as its CEO, one of the fastest growing and award-winning personal training franchises in the country. His journey is a masterclass in staying committed, evolving with purpose, and building systems that create a real lasting progress. Rick, welcome to the Progress Zone.
Hi, thanks, Jody. I'm happy to be here.
You have had great success in your career, but if we could just start back for the folks that don't know your story, tell us what was going on back in 1992 when you first stepped into personal training, and what was going on in your life that said, hey, this is the path I want to take.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, not much was going on. Before the internet, was there anything going on? We don't know. I was in school, actually, just sort of, piddling my way through college, and I found out that you could actually show people how to exercise and hold them accountable and make a decent wage for doing so. And I thought, well, this would be a great gig while I'm going to college. It beats bartending and other things, which, were a lot of fun at that age, but also not maybe the healthiest,
Sure.
choice of things to do. So I thought, well, this will be fun. And, started out going to people's homes and bouncing around at different health clubs. And I had to explain what a personal trainer even did, in those days, because no one had one or had ever heard of it. And eventually thought, it'd be really cool if I could just centralize my efforts and open a facility and put 4 walls into customer experience around this service of personal training. And that was in September of 92 when we opened the original location. I'm actually sitting in the same building, Jody, of the original location that we opened in 92. Now we've expanded a couple of times, and now it's our corporate office, but I've probably walked through that front door 8 million times. And so
I love it.
Many evolutions since, but I would say that it wasn't so much as a strategic choice of this is a career I want. It was just a hobby that I enjoyed. I really enjoyed helping people and socializing and just getting to know, I just find people interesting in general. And it was a great way to pay my way through school. And so opening a facility, again, it was just leverage. It was, I could leverage my time better, create a better customer experience. And it turned out to be a full-on career. And I never really had aspirations of it being that, but I really got lucky.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can imagine too. I mean, at that time, being in school, it probably was stressful to actually get a brick and mortar space and lease and all that stuff. How did you work that out as a young man trying to figure this out? Did you have some mentors or guidance, or how did you really know how to do that?
I did. Actually, it's a common story for personal trainers, but I had a client she and her spouse wanted to open office suites in a shopping center. It was like one of the first concepts where they would rent the space, they would build out the suites, and then they would sublease to tenants who would rent from them. And they would put I guess for lack of better terms at the time, it was like a secretary at the front, right? Who would make appointments and do faxing and all the goofy stuff we used to do back in 92. And so as part of that, there was an adjacent space that was available. And we had already floated the idea back and forth, and they leveraged the fact that they were leasing this space with the space next door. So obviously I didn't have a lot of collateral or a lot to personally guarantee the lease. So they did it for me. And then as far as financing, I had a little money set aside, and surprisingly, it didn't take much to get up and running as a business back then. So able to finance that. And then I was able to get them off of the lease about 12 months after I signed it. So as everyone has at that age, or I think anybody's journey, probably everyone that you've interviewed here has had a hand up at some point, or lots of people involved in their journey. I certainly have, that have helped them along the way in a million different ways. And this is just one of those examples of hey, you got a really great partner who's willing to vouch for you and personally guarantee a lease that you're, basically responsible for in every other aspect. So pretty big risk on their part, but it panned out pretty well for everybody.
Yeah, it sure did, I would say, right? Do you still keep in touch with people? Do you still know them?
I did for many years, for probably 25 years.
Okay.
And then they moved pretty far away and just sort of lost contact with them. So I haven't had contact with them for probably 7 or 8 years, but before that, quite a bit.
Well, and starting out in personal training too, I think I can only imagine. I mean, I know you built small group personal training long before it was even a trend, but only way to scale and leverage yourself is because one-on-one training is so time consuming. you're dedicated to the hours that you're there. You're probably in the gym 12, 15, 16 hours a day. Like, it's a real hard grind. And so how did you start thinking I could do small group? It's going to be more beneficial. And maybe did you see something that others didn't to say, hey, this could be a model that works?
No, I mean, I think it's like a lot of things in my career where people are like, is this what you had planned? Is this where you were headed? It's like, not at all, right? I'd never expected to even still be doing this. It's like, I always joke about, like, I'm surely I can't wear sweatpants to work for the rest of my life. I'm going to have to get a job and be in a cubicle, or I don't know what I thought a real job was, right? But just like that, somewhere about 8 to 10 years in, it just happened organically where clients would say, hey, can I bring a friend in to work out? And I'm like, sure, that makes sense. And then, again, we would offer a slight discount for having 2 people in a session. We were then helping twice as many people, right? Yeah. And the revenue per hour was higher, and it was a little more fun because there was more people involved. So it was a little bit of more of a professional boundary between, the trainer and the client, because you could be, again, it was like the clients and the dynamic between clients and trainers, a little bit of a team, set up. And I don't know, just there was all these wins. And then maybe that same group would say, hey, we have a third that's in our book club. Can we bring her? Or it'd be like a third guy that we golf with. Can we bring him in? He's a buddy of mine. It's like, sure. So now you have 3 buddies working out together, right? Now they're paying even less. We're making even more per hour, and we're helping more people, and we're all having more fun because now there's a friend group and there's the fun banter between client and coach and, all the things. And so I think enough of that was happening, Jody, organically, where we looked at it and I thought, this is where it's headed. People can pay less. So we can offer a better value proposition. We can help more people altruistically. We're in it for that as well. Make money, help people. It's like nothing's wrong with either one of those things. So we can help more people. People can pay less. So it's a better value proposition, right? And everyone's going to have more fun. And so there really wasn't any downsides to it. And at the time that we finally pulled the Band-Aid off, man, we were doing like 3,000 one-on-one sessions a month. I mean, it was a really, really good business. To your point, very labor intensive. The margins weren't great for me as an owner, but still a really good business. Even with low margins, it wasn't bad. But boy, to pull the Band-Aid off of a business model that was not broken and for something that really wasn't a thing yet, it's kind of like Henry Ford. He's like, boy, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? They didn't know they wanted a car. He had to like invent the car and then convince them that they needed the car. So it wasn't like that, profound. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, we're going to take the personal out of personal training. It sounds like a terrible idea, right? And so, but we knew we had enough empirical evidence. We believed in it. We thought it was fun, grid value proposition. So we ripped the Band-Aid off, and it took a while. I mean, people don't like change. So at first it was like, oh, I mean, they were the ones that literally said, you're taking the personal out of personal training. I'm like, we're not. We're just, you're just paying less and having more fun. Still going to be personalized. And I can remember distinctly a year after we made the change, it was a guy who was our biggest holdout. He's like, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not doing it. I'm like, well, we're not doing anything. We're giving you more service for less money, but okay, don't do it, right? Whatever. We were going to force him. And a year later, he was checking in at the desk on the way out. I remember I was here and he said, what do you guys have Friday afternoon? I can't make it in the morning. And they were like, how about 4 p.m.? He's like, great. How many people are in the group? And they were like, 4. He's like, oh, good, because I'm never coming if it's just me. Like, I hate that. It's got to be at least 3 people in the group. This is a guy that was like, I will absolutely not do this, right? So it's just a good example that every now and then as an owner or a founder, if you're doing something a bit different that hasn't been done, you just have to be fully convicted that it's the right thing to do. And sometimes your consumer doesn't even know it yet, right? So you have to build the thing and then show them that it's better for them if you know. And thankfully, we had enough empirical evidence to believe it to be true.
Sure.
Could have missed by a mile, but thankfully we did it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I can imagine you answered my question. My next one was like, how much pushback did you get? Because I'm sure folks, like you said, they don't like change. They're like, oh, it's not personal anymore. Now I'm not getting that individualized attention. Wrong. Here's the benefits, and then like you said, finally understanding and then experiencing it and then realizing like, man, this is actually an environment that's going to help me be better. Right. Like, so kudos to you for staying committed, because I'm sure it was tough when folks were pushing back.
It was, but some of the things we were worried about, like, hey, client adherence to the program or their success rate, that somehow that would slip because of this loss of this one-on-one relationship. And actually it was the opposite. So the accountability to other peers, not just the coach, was actually more compelling. So we had people were paying less. They were coming in more often because they could afford to. now they were getting more fit, right? And they were accountable to not just the coach, but they were also accountable to their exercise partners. And these people would stay in these groups. And some of them, Jody, we're talking about year 2000, they're still together today in our original corporate club. So that's 25 years later. So same group. I mean, same 6 people that were together back then. It's just amazing to see that. And so, yeah, it ended up being the opposite. It was the best outcome that we could have hoped for, to be honest. Like better client adherence, better business model, helping more people, making more money. It's like, geez, it couldn't be any better. So that's why we were so excited to share it. At first we shared it just traveling around the world and standing on a soapbox saying, hey, this is a really cool business model. And then eventually being able to full on franchise it in 2019. So it's been really cool to be able to share that with others.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the longevity, like you said, fitness, right? We all got to be taking care of ourselves. It is, we have to be doing something. We have to be doing strength training for functional mobility as we get old. Like this is so important that it's not a sexy, shiny object workout. It's like, look, let's get in here, work your butt off, do some resistance training, feel better, get a little metabolic finisher and kind of just get that heart rate up a few times a week. And that's going to sustain you for long term. And so I'm glad to see, and I love hearing the stories of the long-term folks that have been in this game for a while. So not only was it you were seeing that this was working and you were finally getting people to come over, at what point did you realize, hey, this isn't just working, but maybe I can scale this and then go into licensing?
Yeah, licensing came about because once we changed our business model, we became one of the highest revenue per square foot facilities in the country. So once we landed on that sort of put us on the radar with some speaking gigs. And then that went well. So we got more speaking gigs. And then we had other brands approaching us saying, hey, we were just known to be experts in coaching in general. So a lot of the brands, Jody, that approached us, it was a bit of like gun for hire work, right? Like they would come to us and say, hey, we want to build a boot camp type of thing. Maybe they're a $10 a month gym and they want to build a boot camp thing that they can upsell their members into. And they're like, we want to get 20% of our members buying into this thing. It's like, okay. So we could program for anything. We felt like sales systems and principles are kind of the same. So we would look at the project, we would build the thing, we would help them price it, we would build comp structures, we'd help them set up the space for it, and then we could power it. We could literally write the programming for them. We could hold them accountable with monthly calls. So it was like franchise light, but it wasn't exactly what we had always been really good at, which was personal training in a small group. That was a little bit more complex and it really needs its own 4 walls to do really well. It's hard to insert that into the middle of a gym floor at like a Gold's Gym or something, right? It's just too much chaos around it. So it really needs its own 4 walls. So a lot of the brands that we were working with just through speaking gigs were, general fitness brands or CrossFits or, cricket training centers in India to aquatics training centers in Tasmania. And you name it, man, like retirement homes. All kinds of crazy projects, right? And so each one had its own nuance and it have some gun for hire, kind of problem solving on the front end, which is a lot of fun. But through that, it led to me, sitting on the advisory board for Anytime Fitness for 5 years. And those guys have 5,000 locations. So like you learn a lot about franchising and those guys are really good at it. Gold's Gym for 7 years. So like you learn about franchising there, right? And so it was a bit of a cheat sheet for us. It sort of evolved over time, but it really just started with like, hey, you run a really interesting model. No one had seen it. Let's hear what you have to say. And if I could string a sentence or two together, it's like, oh, that was good. Can you speak at our event? And it just picked up steam. And then people started asking questions. Then they started asking the same questions. And then you're like, well, I'm consulting for the same things. Let's build a platform and we can deploy different parts of it depending on the type of project that we have. And it put us in 2,500 door fronts of all styles and whatever, from, again, all the way from India to Dubai and Cyprus and Albania and everything in between. It was fun. I learned a lot. It was a very unique way to approach franchising. And eventually we had so much boutique fitness approaching us. Some of them were literally just copying the script off of our licensing site and posting it onto their website as theirs, which we were allowing them to do. They were basically renting our IP, right?
Yeah.
And again, it was more based on boot campy or stuff or class-based concepts, which is not really what we did. And if we worked with maybe a private individual who would come to us and be like, hey, I want to do some consulting, and it was a personal trainer, I'm like, this is the model you need to run. And it was the model that we run now. So there was a few independents out there that did it. And of course, it was like market testing through independents, and they would always work. And I'm like, God, this thing works out great. We opened another corporate facility that just did that to prove it out. Eventually, so much boutique fitness was coming to us in 2019. We're like, listen, instead of powering everyone else's franchise, let's go to full franchising. But it was like a 30-year journey to get from like, figure the thing out yourself, start talking about it, start helping other people do it, right? And then eventually franchise it. So it was a long journey, but a unique way, I think, to go to franchising for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I can only imagine being global like you were, and thousands of gyms across country, like you said, all levels, all different styles, all different platforms. What did that teach you about business and people during that time frame? I'm sure it was an experience, like you said.
Yeah, it really was. And I think it's just commonalities. Like good leaders are just good leaders, right? It didn't matter the style of the business or what have you. It's like if people could attract, hire, and lead good people, and they were good leaders, and they made data-led decisions, but still people were still people, right? There was just a lot of commonalities around that. Resiliency, they could pivot if they needed to. They didn't get too down. If they ran into some headwinds in one direction, they could pivot to another direction and keep going. So I don't know. It's just a lot of common traits, character traits that I would see across the board for successful business owners or entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. I mean, I think those were pretty universal, regardless of where people were in the world. I can remember doing a lot of business in Australia. In any market, and the labor model would be completely different, right? It's like, okay, so you should pay your people this. It's like, well, that doesn't even work over here. Like if you hire someone, you kind of are responsible for them. If you let them go, you still have to pay them for like a year. It was all kinds of strange.
Yeah.
So we learned a lot, but again, through all that learning, you kind of zoom out and it's like, oh, it's basically like this, only different, right? And so it's sort of like the more people were different, the more they were the same in a lot of ways. I know it's a weird way to state that, but at the end of the day, good leaders were good leaders. The people that could have good people around them and be consistent with their message and keep plugging away and be resilient when things didn't go their way. Those were the ones that were very successful in any market, in any model. It was the same character traits regardless. So if anything, it just taught us like, okay, there's some commonalities here across all these crazy markets all over the world and models. And so these are things that we should probably learn and, certainly implement in our personal lives, and which will cross over into our business, of course.
No, I mean, that makes complete sense. And I think having that exposure probably it helped you as a leader. It helped you kind of learn what are the negative talk I got to get out of my head to move forward, or, little things that culturally you might not, we don't experience here in the States. Then you go over there and you're like, oh, this makes total sense, but this is relevant to where we are today. So I love that about it, and that you had that perspective and that experience. And I know going from licensing to franchising, you talked about it was a 30-year road. It was a long journey. Was there what when you made that decision? What was that process like? Like, how does someone, like, you were super successful, you had the licensing going, 3,000 plus global. When you said, okay, people kept coming to you like, why don't we create our own four walls and explain this model so people know it's Alloy, because they're doing it in other gyms, but it's Alloy's programming. What was those first few steps to actually shift from licensing to franchising? And how does that kind of work for someone who's never known how that side of the business works?
The thing that was the most surprising that we learned early on is that when you get into franchising, you're no longer in the same business, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you think the business that you're in is the franchise business, but it's not. So I guess the best way to create an example would be, let's say you're running a business. Let's say you're running, I don't know. Let's say you're running, we'll keep it simple. Let's say you're running an ice cream shop. Well, this would be like going down the street and opening an auto repair shop. And you're like, wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense, because you're just taking the thing that you do and then you're opening a business that teaches people to do the thing you do. I'm like, yeah, but it's so different. It's like, it's not the same business. And that's what a lot of people that maybe want to get into franchising don't realize. It becomes a lot less about the thing that you did. If you want the franchise business to grow, it has a certain levers and mechanisms that work that are going to make it grow, that are completely different from the thing that the franchise does, right? So do you need to know both? Yes. But what you need to come to realize, and if anybody's listening to this and they're like, I'm going to franchise my business. It's like, first of all, it's going to cost you $5 to $10 million to cover the gap from launching to getting to what we call royalty sufficient. And it doesn't happen very often. Like, we got there, which is awesome. Again, the stat, only 2% of brick and mortar franchises ever get 100 to open. 2%. So I'll tell you that a lot of franchises fail because it's hard to cover the gap from launching to break even, right? And a lot of them, you need VC money or something early on, which drastically dilutes your percentage. So if you're a crazy founder and you go find money, you're going to be the small piece of the pie, right? And that's okay. But it's just hard to do. And you also need to realize that like you're getting into a new business, completely new business, and it has a bunch of different rules and a bunch of different ways to sell and market and service. And it's completely different from the thing you do, while in fact, they're going to be in the same package. You just have to realize, like, do you want to open a brand new business that you don't know anything about? Because that's going to be franchising, right? And I think that's what a lot of people that are founders that want to do franchising, they're like, oh, I do this thing really well, so I'm going to franchise it. It's like, okay, well, you're about to get into a brand new business that you know nothing about. And that is terrifying. It's a hard, fast learning curve. It's very expensive. It will test you to your core. And so are you ready for that? Because if not, I mean, that's the reality of it, right? You're getting into a brand new business and you're going to be a newbie and you're not going to do anything and you're going to feel like an idiot and it's going to take you forever to learn it. So, I know it sounds like I'm really negative on franchising. I'm not. It's great. It just be realistic about the money that you're going to need to cover the gap, right? And we didn't get any seed funding. We had just socked away a lot of money because franchising cash flowed really well. Licensing. Yeah. And we knew, hey, we might go to franchising at some point. So let's like stick some money away, right? And we're able to cover the gap on our own, just bootstrapping, which is great. And also rare, which is kind of cool. But also like, hey, we realized like we're getting into a business that we know nothing about. That's why we saddled up to people like a Repum Group, right? For like, we hire a franchise sales organization because they give you that bandwidth. And so it's like, we were able through vendor relationships and just enough exposure to franchising to understand what we were doing to be able to piece it together. But man, it can be terrifying. And you go out and you build your franchise documents and everything. And then it's like, oh, how do I get customers? Right. And it just becomes so little about what the thing does early on that it's shocking for some people. Eventually it all comes back together and it's like, like Jody, if you don't do well in Cary, North Carolina, it doesn't matter to me. Like you have to do well, right? Or the whole thing doesn't work. So it's like that ends up being the key. So it all comes together. But early on, man, it's terrifying, and it's a business that is completely separate from the thing that you do.
I'm sure it was terrifying. I can't imagine knowing just what I went through opening a franchise, but like just on that side of it, putting your business into that model, and like you said, not knowing all the regulations you got to do, all the documentation, support, legal, all that stuff. And then also knowing, I think when you think about like personal training way back in 92, one-on-one, you used tools and leveraged yourself with Repum and others so that was something you took from early on, even if you didn't equate it, but that you're like, hey, I can't do this alone. I can fund it, fortunately, but I'm going to need team players to help make this thing get off the ground, right?
Yeah. And also just the risk tolerance is like, there's an opportunity cost to anything, whether it's time, energy, whatever that is. And so to look at a business that's cash flowing crazy, I mean, licensing was so lucrative and such a great business. We had a few people make a run at buying us, Jody, when we were in a license structure. And it became readily apparent based on the deal structure that we were offered that there wasn't as much enterprise value in a licensing model as there was in a franchise model. So even for enterprise value for us, it was like, I know it's going to be really hard. I think we've got something here. I like franchising because I've worked within large franchises and somewhat got a good peek under the covers. Yeah. So it's like, well, our business will be more lucrative. So our efforts will be, there'll be the payoff for our efforts will be much better. But it's really hard to pivot away from like going from a 3,000 session a month one-on-one training business to small group, and then pivoting away from a very lucrative cash flow, licensing business to go into this top heavy, litigious, slow moving business of franchising. It's like, So it was not an easy decision to do so, and terrifying at times. And of course, in hindsight, it was a great move. But I'm sure I could be having the opposite conversation if we'd made a few missteps here and there.
You've done something right. Where are we with number of licenses sold and how many open? I haven't seen the latest numbers.
We're opening like 5 to 8 a month. So we're about 130 open right now, maybe a bit more, and around 400 awarded, maybe a hair more.
Let's talk about the Mayo personal training as a franchise model real quick. What type of person thrives inside the model, either as a franchisee and then, of course, as a client?
Yeah, I think franchisee-wise, the crux move is people. And I'm sure you've experienced this already. It's like the ability to attract, hire, and lead good people. That's the crux move. We've yet to go on a market and produce too few leads. If you kept your team together and you hit your KPIs, right? you would open at the threshold that we ask you to. And we've yet to produce too few leads to do that. So the market response has been really good, right? I think the avatar for our franchise, like in market, like, okay, Jody, Cary, North Carolina, who's my avatar? 45 to 65 with money. It just so happens that's a very similar avatar to who invests in an Alloy franchise because, again, you've worked hard your whole life. You've created the ability to invest in a new opportunity, which would be a franchise. It's a very similar age bracket and customer avatar that would buy Alloy if it was in their market as an end user or a consumer. So it also makes the connection really easy because someone like me, I'm in that age bracket. I would look at it and be like, I would do that. Like if there was one of those in my market, I would sign up for that. Yeah. And so I think it makes the connection easier, right? Because the investor could see their friends and family investing in it because they're also the ideal customer avatar. So it's really kind of one and the same. Now, obviously, investing in a personal trainer is completely different than becoming an entrepreneur and investing in a business as far as like what needs to be done. But as far as the customer avatars are very, very similar for us. Yeah.
You've built a good culture. And I'm just saying the other franchise owners that I've met through the last several years, and just everybody's been super supportive. Everybody is here to help each other. We're all in this to win it together. Support, no sense in reinventing the wheel. There's a lot of it. We just got to run the play with the right people in the right seats and make it happen. So kudos to you for starting it and then continuing to build that. And I know it's going fast, but I like how you guys are continuing to kind of build out your team, your corporate team to help support the franchisees so we're all successful as it grows. I know you just recently, I saw that you've even expanded the territories now, right? So you looked at the demographics and the territories of the top DMAs and said, okay, here's where we started with, but now there's even more possibility. Talk a little bit about that process and kind of what you guys were thinking as you did that.
Yeah, well, obviously, with the 130 open, we've collected more data, right? And so we've got more data, and the more data we collect, we can even go back to the original territories that we awarded. And thankfully, we haven't found one that we were like, whoa, that was a tough territory, So early on, there was just so much, runway, so much white space open. It's easy to pick like home run spots. And as it turns out, even when we take our current lens, which is more advanced software with more, there's AI widgets now and all kinds of consumer data that we've collected on our ideal customers and where they live and what their household incomes are and all that stuff. We can then comb back over our current locations and none of them are really bad, which is great. So whether that's luck of the draw or what have you, it's worked out really well. And to your point, we originally only mapped the 150 major MSAs. And so all we did was just map the rest of the country because last year, 40 different territories that we awarded were mapped on a call with someone saying, can you look at this? And it might be like Boise, Idaho as an example. Well, we just didn't map it because it wasn't a major one, but there's 2 or 3 locations there that are great. So a lot of that was happening organically. So it's like, all right, it's time. Let's go back and run the lower 48 and let's include all of the markets, not just the major 150. So a lot of what we picked up, Jody, wasn't trying to squeeze in extra locations in different markets. It was more about just opening up the entire country. Again, I think the Dakotas are out and Hawaii, but we could register for Hawaii. We've had maybe one person sniff around there. So those just aren't huge markets for us. So we don't really worry about those, but most of the lower 48 is all mapped now and ready to roll. And that's where we picked up a lot of those territories. But yeah, it put us darn near 2,000, territories. So it's like, wow. Yeah. I mean, long way to go to get there. We're at 400 awarded. You think, well, geez, at 400, like you're probably all sold out. It's like some major markets are pretty saturated, but for the most part, there's a lot of white space out there ready to roll.
For sure. And as I've learned, and as you already know, this type of model, if it's not in the client or members bubble of 3 square miles, of dropping off the kids at school, going to the grocery store, hitting my workout, coming home, they're not driving, 20, 30 minutes typically to go do that because it's just a lot. I mean, traffic's crazy in every city. Like it's just a lot of work. Right. So having those territories and being able to break it down, you're not competing with others. You're actually just helping build the brand in that market, which I think is also helpful. And some of the franchisee owners, we've talked about it, and it's just a great opportunity just to keep growing the brand. Folks that don't know, especially like in my market, I'm the first in the area, so nobody knows who we are, and it's been a grind to kind of educate and share all that's been good about it. But really good culture, really good people, and what I'll do in the show notes too, when it's all done, I'll make sure we put the links in there for anybody who does consider a franchise model or where they want to look, that, where to get started. There's great information on the web and help you get in that first realm.
Look, I'm really proud of our franchise partners. I know that look, you're a great leader. You've written a book on leadership. You've got a podcast now. It's like, I don't know, man. Like, to me, our franchise partners are the thing I'm most proud of. We got some very dynamic, to your point earlier, very helpful, very collaborative, but also just really dynamic people that we can learn a ton from. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of, is the people that we've partnered with that have chosen us and we've chosen them have turned out to be really high quality people. So I really enjoy our franchisees, and I'm really just proud of the people that we're associated with, and the fact that you guys all collaborate, help each other. That, I don't know, to me, that's what it's all about. That's hard to do. I think it's, we've gotten lucky to a certain degree, and the key would be just to keep that formula rolling. So we just keep good quality people in the franchise that are nice folks, that want to help the brand because they understand the rising tide raises all ships, just all the things that sound self-serving, but they're not. It's like, I can just sit back and be like, wow, I'm really proud of our franchise partners because they chose us. And I really do mean that. And of course, you're a big part of that as well with your leadership skills, and you got a really dynamic background, and you were a published author and got your podcast going. I was thinking about this before the podcast today. Well, this is so cool that he's with Alloy. It's like just the fact that you're in the family, it just makes us proud, man. So appreciate you. And I really appreciate our franchise partners.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's felt. So I appreciate you in your role supporting, because I think it's only going to keep all of us stronger. And, honestly, I did due diligence before we did this. I talked to other and feedback I got, it's not like that everywhere. You don't have supportive franchisees. You have a lot of competition in certain markets and certain brands and home services and things like that. There's so many different franchises out there, but really the support of everybody who is in the Alloy model has just been really, really helpful. I get excited about all the momentum, all the things that you built, but what impact do you hope Alloy makes over the next decade, either for your members or franchisees or even just the industry itself?
A little bit of all of that, right? I think on the franchisee level, it's, I have a passion for two things, right? And now they're in the same sort of vehicle, if you will, which is entrepreneurship. I used to co-teach a class at a local college for entrepreneurship, and it was like one of my favorite things to do. I would do it for free, which I did actually. And you go in and just talk to these kids who are in, taking entrepreneurship. And it's kind of funny because they're taking a course on entrepreneurship, which teaches you nothing about entrepreneurship. But I would always come in and just tell crazy stories, and they always loved it. And it's like, all right, here's what you're going to need to do to be good. You're going to have to learn how to suffer, and just kind of blow them up like a football coach. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And so helping people realize what I've come to realize is a real gift is that for my entire life, I've only done what I want to do. And I've worked really hard, but it never has felt like it, So I'll wake up in the morning and my feet hit the floor, and I'm like completely stoked, whether it's to do this podcast today or in 1992 to train clients. Yeah. I've never had a stage of the business that I didn't enjoy. And what a gift, right? Because there's so many people that work in careers that they just hate, and they're just stuck with these golden handcuffs, and they've got mortgages and kids and gosh knows what else they have out there. And they just don't ever get to realize their dream. And they're also scared of the risk, the downside of leaving, again, a lucrative career and going to do something brand new. It's terrifying, but, franchising can mitigate some of that. So I would say the vision for them is just to help more people realize what I've realized. And then ultimately I'll pass that all the way through to the end consumer. It's like, man, there's not a message out there, or a piece of science that you could find that wouldn't state that exercise makes you better in all aspects of your life, from your brain to your mood, to your joints, to your very being, to everything is better if you exercise. And then it's like, well, what kind of exercise? Well, we've known this empirically, Jody, for forever, and you've probably known it just based on your background. But, being strong, like having lean tissue in your body might be the biggest predictor of anti-aging, or the biggest advocate and promoter of anti-aging. And whether it's clearing your blood sugar or, just making you strong. So if you trip and fall when you're 65, you don't break a leg or something, right? You might not even trip, as a matter of fact. So look, there's just so many reasons why look at the GLP-1 movements helping people lose weight rapidly by blunting their appetite. Well, every good doctor worth their salt is like, well, don't do this unless you strength train, because you're going to lose your bone. You're going to have some bone loss, and you're going to lose your muscle mass, which is not a good idea, especially if you're in the age category that we target. And so everyone's coming to us saying, hey, I need to train with weights, right? Yeah. And all the things that you saw where the government lifted the black label warning off of HRT for women.
Yeah.
right? So now women are getting hormone therapy, and it's like, great. Well, what should they be doing for exercise in this perimenopausal into menopausal treatment? Heavy strength training, stay away from HIIT stuff, right? Lift weights. It's like, that's what you need to do. So I don't know, man. It's like all these things are coming together. We've got almost 12,000 members out there now in Alloy who are getting in a better place. And we use Dunbar's number. If they affect 150 people and then they go one more step, that's like 2/3 of the population of the United States that's being positively affected by something that we're putting into market. So I think it's two-pronged, right? I love helping people become entrepreneurs and realize their dreams. And you have to grow as an individual to be a good one. But if you can do it, boy, it's really worth it. And then, boy, the end game, the end result of what we do literally changes people's lives. And I don't know if it gets more compelling than that. So yeah, man, I'm sure you can tell my voice gets even louder and faster. So I get more stoked the more I talk about it. Even though I've been doing it for 34 years, I'm probably more excited now than I've ever been.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that. And I love that energy. Right. And it's so, it just shows when you're doing something you're great and that you enjoy, and it's not like work, you're not having to find something to escape from your day to day. You are in it, you're loving it. And like you said, the outcome for the members that have joined and done it. I mean, the results that you see when you put them back on the InBody after a 30, 60, 90-day accountability session, you're like 3 pounds of muscle mass gained, percent body fat down. And you're in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. And you're like, wow, that's what it's all about. Like, it's a no-brainer, right? So it doesn't seem like it's a hard sell, but a lot of people just, we all know it. We see it on the news, 60 Minutes. Dr. Peter Attia was on there last week, and today's show's got stuff about it. And it's like, you just got to do it, guys. Like, we all got to do it. So
I think it's great. One of the people that was one of our clients that we have our Stronger Together awards, which are like clients that we choose their stories and we fly them out to conference. And we had one that you teach, and she said it well in her video. She's like, I know I needed to do something. Or she said, people know they need to do something, but sometimes you just don't know what to do. Right. Yeah. And I think that's it. I think everyone sees all that and like, well, that's great. But like, what do I do with that information? Like, again, I don't know what good exercise would look like or whatever. So it's fun to be able to fill that gap for sure. And be like, well, if you come here, we're going to make it all about you. Right. And you can start here with like John was one of our other clients. He started at an Alloy with a broken foot. It's like, he's in a boot. He's in his 60s and he hasn't worked out in 20 years. He's been running a big law firm and just, not taking care of himself. And he can start in a boot in that state and get really fit. So it's like, that's what it's all about. So I don't know, man. It's, I hear you, people. I don't think people know what to do, but if you find somebody in your area that can just hold you accountable and just, guide you in the right direction. It's not like you have to kill yourself either. Like, I hate that whole, that trainer thing, like, oh, get in here, we're going to kick your ass. And it's so silly. We're having a guy speak at conferences here, a good friend of mine. He's a fantastic strength coach. He's a strength coach of the Red Sox and all these other groups. And he's in his 60s. And he'll just say, look, if you just come in twice a week and see us and you do nothing else, like, I'd love for you to do all these other things, but let's just say you didn't, you'd be infinitely better off in 12 months from now if you showed up here twice a week. And I know that's an oversimplified message, but it's not as complicated as people make it out to be. It's not. Just show up. That's all. And that's why for us in our facilities, it's like, let's make it mildly palatable, right? Like, you don't have to murder people. Just have them come in, have them hang out with people like them, foster a great fun environment where people look forward to coming in. And if they just show up 2-3 days a week consistently, their entire life is going to change. Yeah. But you just got to get them there. Right. And so for people that might be listening to this who don't exercise, are like, well, I don't know what to do. Find a coach, find an Alloy, maybe find a different coach. I don't know. Just get a coach, get some help, and just start showing up, because that's really all it is. If you do that and you train with weights and you move your body a little bit more, nothing bad is going to happen to you, I promise. Yeah. And a lot of these longevity experts say it doesn't matter how late you start. It's never too late. You can start in your 60s and 70s. Like, you've got to start in your 90s.
To do. Well, yeah.
There's studies of people in their 90s adding lean tissue. Yeah, exactly. It's a little hard to start if you've already done, but if you're not, very, very good opportunity to start. I've got a friend that's, I've had him on the podcast. He's a nutrition expert. His name's Alan Oregon. And he has pictures of his father-in-law starting in his early 90s, and he can barely squat down to a chair. And like 6 months later, he's holding a kettlebell between his legs, and he's standing on boxes elevated so that the kettlebell can go deep between the boxes. And he's basically squatting down all the way down, like squatting to the what essentially would be to the floor and back with a 50-pound kettlebell, and he could barely get into a chair and out of a chair. And he's in his 90s, and that's 6 months of strength training. So it's like, tell me his life isn't infinitely better by just showing up to the gym twice a week. It's like, come on, man. Like, I don't know, anybody can do it. And I know it sounds flippant and like, oh, everybody can do it. But I'm not that rah-rah trainer guy who discounts the fact that it can be difficult and hard and you don't want to start and all. But just if you find an environment that's fun, it doesn't have to be that hard. It really doesn't. Just go in and move some weights around. You don't have to kill yourself. I promise.
What grounds Rick Mayo when life gets busy or hectic? Because you got a lot going on, man. But how do you just keep grounded when you got all this other stuff going on around you?
I really enjoy it. Like, I don't have a problem. I never get into my ego. Well, I shouldn't say that. We all get into our ego, but I don't get into my ego in a way that I'm like, I never feel like I have it figured out. I love learning. And so that now hobby wise, like, I love to do things that force me to think of nothing else, if that makes sense. So one of them would be motorcycles. Like, I enjoy, my dad owned shops growing up. So whether it be dirt bikes or street bikes or racing on a track or motocross or like touring, like traveling internationally, I would always rent a motorcycle somewhere and spend 2 weeks riding around, seeing everything. So I don't know, for me, when you're on a motorcycle, you need to focus. It's sort of like moving meditation. You can think of nothing else. And that's a good thing. So it's really meditative for me to get out and just go for a ride. And I know anybody listening to this is probably like, oh God, it's going to get hit. I used to skydive and do all this other stuff. I don't really do that anymore, but even motorcycles are scary
these days with people that nobody pays attention like they used to.
I know. I would say though, when you really look at the statistics, a lot of the accidents are rider error. Like, they're either on alcohol or they're like, if you're going 80 miles an hour in a 35 and the grandma pulls out in front of you, well, she looked both ways. She just didn't expect you to come over the hill at 80, right? So is that really her fault for pulling out in front of you? It's like, she pulled right out in front of me. It's like, well, okay. So I think when you really look, there's just something called the hurt report out there that always makes me feel better when it's like 85% rider error, So every now and then you get T-boned by somebody drinking and driving, and that's terrible, but that's not usual. So I don't know. Just, be smart. Don't ride too fast and don't drink and drive. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably good for your mental health as well. But like,
exactly.
Like, do you have any specific habits that, like, you start your day and you start off with, sunshine or, any type of, habits that keep you physically and mentally fit so that you can continue to be at your top when you're coming in the office and you're helping grow this business?
Yeah, I think, I've always been kind of anti-morning routine. And I know that kind of flies in the face of what's popular right now, but it's like, if I did Andrew Huberman's morning routine, I wouldn't be at work till noon, right? I have to stare at the sun, like to, ground myself, and I got to do sauna, and then I have to cold plunge. I have to they could do NAD push. And it's just like, come on, guys, like, there's so much in that. And I get it. That's the business, right? And for people looking to move the needle maybe a little bit more, like coffee work, get up, get some coffee, go to work. But one thing I do consistently is a gratitude journal. And I know that sounds corny, but it takes no time. It's like, we use the 5-minute journal format. Like, we have them branded for Alloy, but it's literally like, what are 3 things you're grateful for, right? What are 3 things you're going to do today to have a great day? What's an affirmation statement? And then when you get home that night, there's like a decompress. It's like, what are 3 things that you learned today? And like, what's one thing that you could have done better, as an example, right? So it just keeps you looking for the positive things, because I think your brain you could train your brain to look for whatever you want, right? If you're always looking for danger and bad things, then it'll probably find those things, right? But if you're always looking for the good things, it'll find those as well. So I think it's just slowly but surely trains your brain to be grateful for very simple things. Some days it's like, well, I'm really grateful for this cup of coffee, because without this, I would take me a minute to get rolling. And I'm sure you've done a lot of work like that with your leadership style, Jody. But I think for me, no big morning routine, just gratitude, coffee. Don't jump on social media right away. Try to catch your breath and just think for a minute, and then get some coffee and get to work. That's more my style.
Yeah, no, I love that.
What about you?
Yeah.
What about you? I'm curious.
So I am a morning person. I do get up. I do work out in the morning first thing, because if I don't, the day gets out of the way. And then in the evenings, I'm like, oh man, what happened? I got to get it in.
That's right.
But no, I don't cold plunge. I have tried cold showers. That is hard. I enjoy my warmth.
Right. Exactly.
I like getting it out of the way in the beginning of the day, just for me, because of the schedule. And now my kids are older a little bit. So the evenings I do have some time. But, some of that's just working on the business and being in the studio and things like that. So, but yeah, I do like it. If I didn't have to get up to an alarm clock and could do it naturally, like you said, like Huberman or some of these others that like, it could be a 4-hour process just to really get into your zone. But
Right.
no, it's good. I do have a infrared sauna that I've been using.
Oh, very cool.
And I do love that. It's just a 1-person sauna roll, small radiant health. And I love that. And I feel like that's really helped like detoxify and do some other things to make me feel good. I don't know. Like you said, there's so much out there about all these different things. If you're doing a little bit of something, I think it's better than doing nothing. And to your point, we're just going to do something. So,
well, look, I mean, get the big rocks out of the way, like exercise, try not to eat like a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Like move around a little bit more. Don't sit all day. Like, okay, duh. Right.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, it's like, all right, once you've nailed that, sure. You jump in a sauna 2 or 3 days a week. There's a lot of evidence that shows, I mean, it's some huge percentage of your all-cause mortality goes down, right? Your cardiovascular health is drastically improved. So those things can move the needle, but just again, we run into a lot of folks that are in our socioeconomic and age category who are just perseverating over all these like detailed weird things. I'm like, dude, you're not even working out. Like I just saw you eat a bowl of ice cream. Like start with that.
Yeah.
Eat have a protein shake. And then if you still want ice cream, do that. Let's start with the basic big rocks and then you can fill in with your pebbles and your sand and your water eventually. Right. Yep. So it's like, I don't know. We see that more often, but if you nail the big stuff, sure, man, all that stuff makes a difference. And those are things I would consider as well. I'm with you though. I hate cold plunging. Like, look, I have been very successful, I think, without any cold plunging. And I think I'll be just as successful in the future without doing it. I hate it. It's just too cold, man. It's uncomfortable. And everyone's like, oh, dude, it makes my whole day so much better. Like my whole life is better because I'm cold plunging. And of course, I'm tongue in cheek laughing because if you like it, go for it. I hate it. Yeah. And it's even worse if you contrast it. I've even been like, all right, so I'll get in the sauna first and then I'll jump in the cold. Yeah. Terrible. Yes. Worst thing I've ever done in my life, right? It's like so cold. I got out. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Like this is torture. It's awful. Just
hoping your heart doesn't stop, right? Because
I have friends that do it like every morning, like it's like nothing. They get in there and they're like having a conversation. I'm like, oh no. I don't know why. It's just not for me.
I talked to one person. He's like, you just got to mentally do it. Just do it and make yourself do it. I'm like, I've tried. Like, it doesn't feel good. Like I can't.
I'd rather do something else that's horribly uncomfortable. Like, and listen, there are people that like it and then they're like, well, it's really hard. It's kind of like trainers being like, you got to wake up and do hard things like working out. I'm like, hold on, you love working out. You know what a hard thing would be? Have that terrible conversation you've been avoiding with your sibling that you're in a fight with. That's hard work, right? Do shit like that. Do something that's hard for you. Because if you already like to exercise and you go out and run 10 miles, talk about how hardcore it is, that's not hardcore. That same person that's really unhealthy that you make fun of, they probably work 12 hours a day buried in a computer screen. That would be really hard for you, right? So it's like everybody's hard is different. So hard is relative. And if you like doing it, it ain't hard. Believe me, even getting in a cold plunge, right?
Yeah.
Would it be hard for me? Yes. Am I going to do it? No.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're getting short on time here. So I just want to ask you, man, for someone who's listening, who feels stuck, either if it's in their fitness or just their business life or just life in general, right? Like what's one step that they can take today just to enter into their own progress zone? Like that we need to always be evolving. And so what would you tell someone who's just really kind of feeling stuck?
I think when you're feeling stuck, you feel like you're not in control. And that's just not true. Like we all are lucky to be living when we're living. If you live in the US and you're born at a time when you and I were born, you've already won the lottery, right? So you have agency over your life. So if something's not working, flip the script, man, just change it. Like sometimes it's as simple as one habit. Like maybe you always wake up in the morning and you go straight to social media and the comparison trap makes you feel bad about yourself. Or I don't know, man, it's hard to identify, but just know that you are in control ultimately. And until you can look in the mirror and say to yourself, I am fully in control of the outcomes in my life, 99% of the time, 99% of the problems are my fault or of my doing, I'm going to start fixing these things. Like unless you are willing to accept full responsibility and admit that you do have agency over your life, nothing's going to make a difference. So I would say start there. And it can be terrifying on one hand, but on the other hand, it's very empowering because you can make a change. And sometimes just a few small habits. It's hard to say like, well, this is the one thing to do because everybody's so different. But I think it starts with just admitting that you do have control, and which means that it's also your fault, which can be really hard to hear and to say to yourself. But if you can, on the other side of that realization is a massive amount of self-realization and just empowerment for you. So start there. You're in control, fix it. You don't like it, fix it. Sounds simple, but it's not simple, but not easy. How about that?
I love it. I think that's sound advice. And I think people, even in our age, are just kind of overwhelmed. There's a lot going on, right? Some folks are taking care of elderly parents and adult children and launching them into their world, and others are going through some health crisis. So you're right. It's everybody's heart is their own. But just do one thing. There's something you can do. Like you said, just stay off the phone for a little bit. My gosh, let's just get out of the social media world for 10 minutes a day and see what that positivity. The gratitude journal, I think, is a huge thing. It makes you think about every little thing that has blessed you or is good for you, right? So, and then that puts your headspace in a much better space. If something does come up, you're able to react differently. And so I love it. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just the age, but you do see a lot of people that just feel stuck or overwhelmed. And like you said, where do you start? And so I appreciate you sharing your advice, because I think it's just so important. And then, like you said, when you get on the other side, when you stack those small wins, that momentum, then you get to the other side and you're like, man, look what I did.
You got to prove to yourself, like if you feel like you're not good enough or you're making the wrong decisions, you don't think your way out of that. You do a few things. And then you're like, oh, so I'm a person that can do this. Like I'm a person that doesn't get on social media in the morning. Okay. What does that person do for breakfast? Well, maybe I'll have a little healthier breakfast. It's a cascading effect, right?
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere. Like you said, pick one or two things, small, simple, but that self-efficacy that you'll build and the trust that you'll earn in yourself will manifest itself in every little area of your life. And it will be a slow burn and a slow build. But over time, and you get a year down the road, just stacking small habits and building more self-efficacy and proving to yourself that you do have agency over your life, that you are the one that can make those changes. It's life-changing. You just have to get started. And to your point, Jody, sometimes it's just that first little habit. Yeah. And then it makes you feel good. Then maybe another habit. Now you feel even better. You got to earn your own trust and you got to feel better about yourself. And you only do that through proving to yourself that you can do it. So pick some small actionable steps, do those, earn that trust in yourself, and just keep going. Yeah. I
love it, man. I love everything about that. Well, I mean, Rick, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your journey and your insight with us today. I so enjoy talking to like-minded folks that are just passionate about what they do, helping folks change their lives and just really, living life by design of what they want it to be. And so I appreciate you and you being here with the audience.
Jody, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for being with Alloy and more importantly, just helping the greater good with this podcast and your books and everything else. Keep going, my friend. I'm a fan.